process. The way I take in material when I'm watching it, the way I react to it. I will notice that, I'm 8 hours and I'm just screening footage at the beginning of a project, and I know something's good when I kind of lean in. Literally, I don't mean the Cheryl version of literally, I sit closer. Sort of like, what did you just say? Or what's going on? So I do a lot of my work just intuitively and emotionally, and it's hard to talk about it, but I found this one particular scene in a film I edited in 2010 called Buck. Has anyone seen Buck? Okay, a couple. So to introduce it, I'll show the trailer just so you can get an idea of what it is. But there's this one scene that I feel like in the evolution of any movie, you come to the scene about 7 minutes in, can't really be later than 7 minutes, where you're either gonna get your audience to sort of go along with the ride or not. I call it the why should I care sequence. Before that you're introducing things, you're setting things up, but around 7 minutes you have to be like, oh, okay, now I know what this is. And I was having a lot of trouble with this film, developing that scene. So Buck is about the man, Buck Brannaman, who was the original horse whisperer. I don't know if anyone's seen the movie or read the book, The Horse Whisperer, but I think everybody knows the term. And he's extraordinary. The filmmaker, Cindy Meal, had never made a film. She's a horse person from childhood. She studied East Coast or Eastern English style riding, and training, which is very different from Western. She had no interest in any, cowboy kind of horse training. But a friend of hers took her to see Buck Brannaman do this workshop. He calls them clinics. And she was just transformed. She was like, oh my God, I can't believe what he does. He's amazing. He works with compassion and respect, and it goes against everything I've ever learned, and I want the world to know about this. And when I was first talking to her about why she was making the film and what did she want to say and what was she interested in, she said, I want everybody to treat their horses better. And I thought, well, that's not really a crossover film. That's her very specific audience. And I was committed to, giving this film as big a life as it could. So I felt like my job was to watch all the footage and see where am I. I'm not a horse person. I mean, I love horses, but I'm not, one of those people that spends all their summers on horseback. And I didn't know that much. I didn't know the terminology. So I watched all this footage. In this case, there was like 360 hours of mostly Buck training horses and or as he says, training people, doing these workshops. And the settings were all beautiful. They were outside, Montana, Wyoming, North Carolina, and everybody was wearing a cowboy hat, so everybody looked the same. The lessons or the workshops were all pretty much the same information. So it was, I would say 90% felt to me like the same. And yes, you could do this amazing educational film about how to train a horse, how to ride a horse, but when I started doing my own research, as Ramona was talking about, Buck had written a book called The Faraway Horses. And he talked about his childhood and this, difficult time he and his brother had being raised by a very abusive father. And he started drawing these parallels between his experiences as a battered child and how he relates to troubled horses. Not necessarily beaten horses, but horses that have fear, that are mistrustful of humans. And I was like, ooh, that's it. So I encouraged Cindy to go and do much more interviewing with him about these childhood stories. And I felt like that was the way I could now see all of these workshops. So when he's working with a particular horse and asking them to do a certain thing, I'm thinking, oh, this is Buck as a little boy trying to protect himself, or whatever the case was. And I could start seeing the footage differently. And that became my guide